Well, hello and thanks for joining us once again. My name is Al Westerman, and I'm really pleased to have you come with us along for this journey as we're going through the book of 1 Corinthians. Today we find ourselves on 1 Corinthians 5, and I'm really excited to get into it, but first a little bit of review. So last week in 1 Corinthians 4, we were talking about how Paul was able to work with integrity, and he was able to work with a clear conscience, but that still didn't stop people from criticizing his motives. Now here's the thing, Paul knew that his motives and his intentions were as pure as they could possibly be. And because of that, he didn't worry about what anyone else said. He knew the truth, God knew the truth, he was living in integrity, and that was it. That was all that mattered in that situation. So 1 Corinthians 5 starts off with Paul, who wrote the book of 1 Corinthians, addressing a concern that happened in their midst. They were actually proud of the sin that happened. This man took, so to speak, his father's wife, and they were proud of it. And instead of disciplining him, they actually encouraged this behavior. Maybe they thought it was funny or impressive, or I don't know. Paul has some pretty harsh words for this person, and he encourages them to get rid of him, to cast him out of the congregation, so that he can hopefully be reconciled someday, to realize that what he did was serious so that he can be reconciled eventually. Now Paul readdresses this situation and the harshness with which they actually dealt with him in 2 Corinthians 2, but you can read that for yourself. So the point Paul's trying to make can be illustrated by this story. Now presently, I love cooking. I love figuring out how flavors go together and ingredients, how they mix together and what goes just right, and it's really fun for me. But before any of that happened, I had no skills, and I decided I was going to try really hard one day to make an omelet for my family. So I got all these vegetables, I got some bacon, chopped it all up, fried it all up all night, cracked in the eggs, and then in order to make it nice and connected, I guess, I added some cream, some coffee cream, right? Now, I guess this is before we were such avid coffee drinkers, because the cream had actually gone bad. And so when I mixed this cream into it, the whole thing went rancid. The whole thing was basically inedible, and it ruined the omelet for us. And so the point Paul is trying to make is this, that having a mar on that congregation like that, and accepting it and trying to eat the whole omelet as it is, or trying to say present yourselves as you are, it just doesn't work. And so there has to be some level of discipline. There has to be some level of, this isn't what we stand for. And Paul continues this thought in the next couple of verses, and starting in verse 9 he says, I have written to you in my letter not to associate with sexually immoral people, not at all meaning the people of this world who are immoral, nor the greedy and swindlers, or idolaters. In that case, you would have to leave this world. But now I'm writing to you that you must not associate with anyone who calls himself a brother and is sexually immoral or greedy, an idolater, a slanderer, a drunkard, or even a swindler. With such a man did not even eat. What business, and so don't miss this, do not miss this. What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? And this is the thought that I want to conclude on. Christians are viewed as judgmental by many people. They are viewed as people who point the finger and say that God doesn't approve of this, or God doesn't like that, or we don't like this, or you need to stop doing that, or whatever. That's not our job. That's not our position. It's no business of ours to judge those outside the church. That is holding people to a standard that they're not called to adhere to. We are to love. We are to show people God's love. We are to tell people about the transformation that's taken part in us. We are to show the world by example, by our loving example, our transformed life, a life that has been completely transformed by love. That is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to shine like stars in the world. We can invite people into the transformation that comes from Christ, and then be patient with them as God reveals himself and transforms their mind. And that is what I just want to encourage us all into. Reserve your judgment, hold it and keep it to yourself, let it die. We are not to be judging other people. We are not to be saying what they should or should not be doing, especially if they're outside of the church. The Spirit of God, when He comes into your life, transforms you from the inside out. And so that's what stood out to me in this passage. I would love to hear what stood out to you. So please reach out and let me know.